Now, tomorrow we'll see the centenary of Nelson Mandela's birth. The political leader would have been 100 years old. On the eve of the anniversary, politicians, campaigners, writers and musicians are all gathering in Islington to read from a new book of letters written by Mandela during his time in prison. Eleanor Cunningham is inside the venue for us and can give us more. Ellie.
That's right. Well, welcome to the Union Chapel. As you can see, the stage here behind me, many people milling around just a few minutes before the doors open to the public here tonight, where the words of Nelson Mandela from the letters that he wrote to his friends, family, and even his opposition and fellow activists are going to be brought to life on the stage here tonight. Now, one of those who will be speaking is his granddaughter. Her name is Zamaswazi Delamini Mandela. She's going to be bringing some of those words to life, and here's a snippet of her reading some of those letters he sent to his family.
Do you understand that you were nearly born in prison? Not many people have had your experience of having been in jail before they were born. You were only 25 months old when I left home. Though I met you frequently thereafter until January 1962, when I left the country for a short period, we never lived together again.
Now, as you heard there, some really sensitive words from Nelson Mandela. Now, these are letters that he sent to many people across the world while he was incarcerated for 27 years before his release, and then becoming the first black president of South Africa. Now, many of these letters have never seen the light of day, and those 27 years worth of letters have been compiled by one woman. Her name is Sahm Venter. She's had the very big task of editing a book together, which is going to be released tomorrow on the day that Nelson Mandela would turn 100 years old. Now, I've been talking to her about what a big task it is and what she learnt from the man through reading these personal notes.
I don't think much surprised me, except that I think what is very important for people who were perhaps born after his release from prison 28 years ago, who don't know all that much about him, they can learn from his letters and his wisdom, especially in the times we're living in now, where you have families being separated all over the world, that this kind of pain is universal. And I think that Nelson Mandela can still teach all of us how we can overcome those kind of urges to be racist and xenophobic and fascist, and actually rise to the greater good and all try and be better people. What's very important for me is that day one in prison, he decided that he was not going to give away his dignity under any circumstances, and he didn't. It was brutal. The first several years were really brutal, and the only way we really know about it is what he said when he came out of prison and what other prisoners said. But in this book, we have letters that he wrote to the authorities complaining about the conditions. He was not allowed to write about prison conditions to anyone else. So that is the only clue that we have in writing. I think, a lot of people talk about, they assume that he was this angry young man who changed and came out all mellow. But I don't believe that at all. I mean, what he was calling for when he went into prison, which was a non-racial constitution for South Africa, is the same as what he was calling for when he came out. So he just bided his time, did his thing, kept his dignity, stayed strong, stuck to the message, stuck to his vision, and eventually the world, who didn't believe him, like the Western world, and the South African apartheid regime turned around and they welcomed him.
Sahm Venter there, the woman who has put together the book of all Nelson Mandela's personal letters from prison, which we brought to life here this evening at the Union Chapel on the eve of the day that Nelson Mandela would have turned 100 years old.
Eleanor Cunningham there for us in Islington this evening at that special tribute. Right, you are watching London Live News. Stay with us, still to come.